Good morning, YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and squirrels. It is everyone's favorite host, Fishy, with Something's Fishy. So, today I am going to dip into the old memory bank archive of the fishy brain. So, I'm going to be telling you a story, and I'm going to do this story, I believe, in two parts. But before I get into that story, I just want to thank you all for stumbling across my channel, for wandering into my channel's field. So, this is a new channel if you are hearing this somewhat close to the date of its drop. And I ask of you to go into the comments and blast me. Take me out at the shins. Whatever I need to change, edit, do differently, even if this channel needs to go in a whole different direction, you fellers let me know. You let me know what you want, because that's after all what this is all about. It's what you want. So, I'm a history major myself with emphasis on conspiracies. I like me a good conspiracy, whether it be cryptids, whether it be the government's trying to kill us, or even ancient aliens. I don't really know. Anything works for me. So, if we could even head in that direction. But for now, the direction I'm going to head into is going to be storytelling. And these stories, I don't intend to forever be my own, but I do have quite a bank of stories. I've lived one interesting life thus far. A very interesting life. I've been hunting around North America, Canada, Alaska, the US. I've been on insane trips. I know billionaires. I've been stabbed. I've been robbed. Lots of things have happened to your boy Fishy. Let me tell you that. So, I can keep us rolling on stories from my own personal collection for a while, but let me know the direction you guys want this YouTube channel to head in, or if I'm doing all right, then let me know that too. Give me a little pat on the back, scratch that itch I have of having a little accomplishment. But without any further ado, let's get into the story. So, this is part one of a two-part story. So this particular story occurred somewhere around the year 2014 in a little town in central Wisconsin. Now, I was in high school. I believe it was the year before my senior year. And I met this kid who was a senior, so he was a year above me. We'll call him Quinn. Now, Quinn had came from Wyoming, but prior to coming from Wyoming, he had lived in Alaska. Now, I add the emphasis on him living in Alaska for reasons that I will diverge? There you go. Let me know which one it is. That I will diverge into. So, he came from Alaska, and I say this because in Alaska, as we all know, Alaska's a very massive state. The biggest one in the U.S. So it takes a long time to travel around in Alaska. So in Alaska, you are able to simultaneously get an airplane license whilst getting a driver's license. And the reason for this is due to the immense emphasis on needing to travel long distances to be able to obtain simple things like finding a Walmart. Some people have to fly in once a month, get their grocery shopping done, and then fly back out to their homes. So, Mr. Quinn already had a single prop pilot's license when I met him. And this was rather interesting. He was kind of a cool kid because of this reason, and he was obsessed with airplanes. He wanted to become a pilot. So, as I became friends with him throughout the year folded on, and I believe this was towards the end of the year, so it would have been around May of 2013 or 14. And I'm sitting in history class, and it's kind of towards the end of the year, so it's like an easy day. It's like a study hall. So I'm sitting there, supposed to be working on homework, but obviously not. And he comes wandering over to my desk and smacks down this piece of paper. I almost envision like a pirate scroll, like papyrus, all curled up that you have to unfold across the desk and put candles down to hold it open. Picture that, except not. So he smacks down this scroll, and he unrolls it, and he goes, you see these circles? They're these red circles. Some were the size of like a dime, some were a penny, some are a quarter size, and some were just specks. But they were little red circles, and he says each one of these circles shows an airspace with a runway. The bigger the circle, the bigger the airspace. So, like, for example, Minneapolis's airport was on it. That circle was huge. It was like the size of a silver dime, silver dollar, of a silver dollar. It was big. So that's for an example of a major airport. Now, he shows me a particular little red spot off the northern coast of Wisconsin out into Lake Superior. I believe the islands were called, oh man, what were they called? Was it the Apostle Islands, the Painted Islands? It was something like that. If you guys pull up a map of Wisconsin, go to the northern shore where a little horn touches out into the Lake Superior, and you'll find a couple islands off the coast. That's where the runway was. So he says, let's fly here tonight. Mind you, it was a Friday. So I say, are we going up with an instructor? What's the game plan here? I had never been flying with him before. We had hung out many times. We were friends at this point, but I'd never actually gotten to an airplane with him. And he says, no, we are renting the airplane, and we are flying to this island tonight. And I said, let's do it. Your boy Fishy's down. Fishy's always down for an adventure. Like as I said before, I was moose hunting at the age of 10. Like, I am ready for an adventure. Always. Always ready for an adventure. So I'm down. So I say, okay, after school, let me go home, tell my parents we're going flying, and I'm going to spend the night at your house, and then and I'll come pick you up and let's take off. So the plan was set. School day ends. I go home. I say, hey, Mom, I'm going to go flying with Quinn. And she goes, okay, you guys are going up with an instructor. Mom, if you hear this, I am sorry. The lie flew from my lips before I could even take it back. It's like when you shoot a gun, they say there's no pulling that bullet back as soon as you squeeze the trigger. Well, this is what happened with that lie. It flew from my lips. I just simply agreed with her. Yep, we're going with an instructor. It was too late. The lie was set. So she, of course, says okay. And then I say afterwards, I'm going to spend the night at Quid's house. So I just bought myself a full 24 hours of freedom. So I jump in my father's truck. He had a beautiful, beautiful Dodge at the time, and I was so cool for being able to drive it. So I jump in my father's truck, and I go to pick up my buddy Quinn. And mind you, I'm 16, and he's 17 or 18. So I go pick him up. We're jacked. We're jamming to music. We're on top of the world. We're about to rent a freaking airplane and fly it. Just two kids flying an airplane. Who gets to do that? Not many people, mind you, in the state of Wisconsin. So we get to the airport, and we go to the runway. And this is not a normal airport where you see people waiting in line with their luggage and airplanes coming in. No, this is a tiny, tiny abandoned airport. And had you not known someone that worked at this airport, you would think, I don't know what you'd think, but you wouldn't think there's any airplanes there. So we just pull up onto the runway. We drive right onto it. Off to the side, of course, not on the runway. And we go wandering over to this hangar, bunker looking thing. And we open up the garage doors manually. No garage door opener. Everything's manual in this airport that you'll soon find out. So we pull these hangar doors open. And inside is this beautifully ugly little pug of an airplane. It's a 1967 Cessna. I think it's a 67. For any airplane nuts out there, if someone's going to come in the comments and say, Cessnas weren't made in 1967. Sir, I'm not lying. I simply have my information mistaken, but it's around a 1960s version of the Cessna. Single prop. Piece of crap. The seats in this Cessna had these seat covers that you'd expect to find in like a Camaro from the 60s, like sheep wool seat covers. And the reason for these seat covers were because by around the 70s or 80s, this airplane had already seen so much action that the seats were falling apart. So back in like the 70s or 80s, they had to put these wool covers over the seats. So that's just a little picture of this is not a nice aircraft. This thing is not good at all. And we're about to take it out into the lake, which essentially is like a small sea. If you look at Lake Superior, I mean, it's massive. And we're about to fly a sketchy aircraft into it. So we get into the Cessna. Hold on. Let me back up a little bit. So we're looking at the Cessna, and I say, okay, how do we get it out on the runway? I believe the word is, how do we taxi it onto the runway? And he says like this, and he goes wandering over into the corner of this old dusty hangar and pulls out this long pole. It's a big, long steel pole with almost like a hook-looking thing on the end of it. And I'm curious, what is this thing? What are we supposed to do with this? So he walks over and clamps it onto the front So where the front wheel drops down, there's a little piece of steel bar that sticks down with the wheel. So he clamps it onto that bar. And then he starts pulling. And I'm like, what on earth are you doing? He said, this is how we move it. We got to move it by hand. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So we're pulling this thing out. We pull it out onto the runway. We get it lined up, and we're ready to roll. We go and disconnect the pole, put it away. Now it's go time. He pulls out this Bose aircraft headset. Looks cool. Sounds great. Puts them on, and then hands me this old clunkety headset from probably 1967. And I put them babies on, and I say right away, can your boy hook up some music to these headsets? Because what is going to be cooler than flying with some tunes? So he's like, yes. So I hook up my tunes. We're both listening to the same thing. It somehow would go into both of our headsets. Throw on a little Wiz Khalifa, little airplanes. We're ready to roll. We fire up this airplane. That's about what it sounds like. Don't roast me too hard for that impression. So we get this puppy rolling. We go, take off. Aside from it rattling the fillings out of our teeth on takeoff, everything went accordingly. So we're in the air now. And mind you, old aircraft, single prop aircraft like this, for those of you who have been in jets before, where you fly above the clouds, and sometimes there's like 2 layers of clouds. Like you break through the first layer of clouds, and then way above that, there's a second layer of clouds that you will eventually break through, and then that's where you reach your cruising altitude. We never broke through the first layer of clouds. We're well below the first layer of clouds. So we're flying north. And I look over and I'm like, looking at this window, and it looks like an RV hatch window, like in the third row of a van, in like the 90s versions of the vans, where you can flip the hatch and push the window open, but it doesn't open up all the way. I'm looking at this window and I go, Quinn, am I able to open up this window while we're flying? Because also for you, those of you who've been on a jet, you know you can't roll down a window on a jet, or at least I hope you know that. So he says, absolutely. So I'm like, I'm in a little bit of a rebellious phase back then, so I'm smoking. And I say, Quinn, can I do something cool? Can I smoke while we fly? And he says, go for it. So I turn on the bangerest banger of the bangers for music, and I spark up, and I'm toking, and we're flying, and the smoke's going out the window. I'm having the time of your life. Your boy Fishy thought he was Pablo Escobar on a cocaine run to the Bahamas. I was so excited. I wish the world could have seen me at this point. But if you really did see me, I would probably look like a lunatic barreling through the sky in a tin can with wings duct taped to it. I did not look cool, I don't think. So we're flying, music's going, I'm toking, we're cruising. And we're heading for this island. And I wish I could say something crazy happened on the way to this island, but nothing did. Well, actually, no, I probably don't wish I could say that. But nothing really exciting happened on the way there. Everything went smoothly. We're flying. The wings are flapping. When I say flapping, every little bit of air pressure that changed, every little gust of wind, everything caused these wings to flap. Literally flap. Because of the build quality and age of this aircraft. And also the metal's supposed to be a little malleable and flexible. So, you got the stage set. Rough aircraft, 2 teenage boys, all alone, flying through the open blue. We were Sky Kings, and we're flying. All of a sudden, Lake Superior comes into sight. What a breathtaking view it was. Just beautiful. I'm high as the clouds, and we're looking at the lake, and we're coming in for a landing, and there's this little island sitting out there, and I'm like, that's where we're going. We come in hot. We land that puppy. And Quinn did a rather good job landing that puppy on the runway there. So, we land uneventfully. The boots are now on the ground on an island out in the middle of Lake Superior. We taxi the aircraft off to the side again by pushing it with our hands. And then Quinn goes, there should be a vehicle somewhere around here that we can rent or one that we can use. So we look all over. We look, and there's a little tiny outpost building that acts as like the terminal for passengers. Again, there's no airplanes on this runway. There's no people on this runway. It's abandoned. So we go and look around. The doors are locked. No one's there. We look around the parking lot. There's no vehicles there. So there's nothing for us. So this is odd, Quinn. And this is what kind of catches my attention. He's like, there's always some sort of vehicle for the pilots. There's no vehicle here. So now what do? We don't know where town is. We don't have any idea where we are, and we have no vehicle. What are we going to do? So we walk over to the road, and the roads are actually pavement here, which is surprising and a nice little touch. So we walk over to the road, and it goes in two directions, right or left. So we roll the dice, and we choose left. We're hoping town is to the left. We hope there's a little town. I don't know if it would even be called a town, but a group of houses, maybe even a business. Who knows? It's summertime on a beautiful island out in the middle of Lake Superior. There's got to be some people out here, right? Paved roads, got to be. So we start hoofing it, and we're walking, and this is where things begin to get exciting. I'm sorry if this story's been a little bland up to this point, but this is where things get interesting, folks. So, as we're walking, we hear footsteps through the woods. And mind you, the woods is thick. This is a dense forest. This is like some state forest, tree to tree. Can't see more than 50 yards off the road. Leaves are out at this time of year, and it's thick. We hear footsteps coming. We have no gun. We have no knife. We have nothing to protect ourselves. Crunch. Crunch, crunch, the footsteps are drawing closer. Crunch, crunch, the footsteps draw ever nearer. Sasquatch? What could it be? The Michigan Dog Man? Crunch, crunch, and then we see it. There is a black mass coming through the tree line, coming up to the road about 50 yards ahead of us. Big black mass coming out. I look at Quinn. Quinn's scared. So I'm the hunter. I'm the adventurer who's been out in forest. Although he's from Alaska, he must have lived more towards the city because he never really got into hunting or any of those sports. So he's freaked out. He's really freaked out. He freezes in his tracks, and we're both, kind of losing it a little bit. And out comes a 300, maybe even 500-pound mass of black fur. And if some of you may have guessed it, it's a black bear. Fresh out of hibernation, probably starving. And we're two 150, 160 soaking wet kids, teenagers, young lads, you might say. And we're staring into the eyes of this beast. And it's looking at us, licking its chops. We probably look like two salted hams laying on the road, waiting to be devoured. And this black bear's staring us down. And it starts taking a few steps towards us. And let me tell you this. When most people know, put your hands up in the air. When you come across a black bear, most people know, don't run, put your arms up in the air, get as big as you can, scream, yell, wave your arms. Well, let me tell you something, folks. At this point in my life, that was ingrained into my head. At least I believed it was ingrained in my head to do that kind of stuff. But when you are in this situation, everything that you think is ingrained into your head and that you totally believe you will do by default is out the window. That never even occurred to me. It never even crossed my mind. Not even for a millisecond did I think, hey bear, let's scream at bear and wave our hands. No, gone. Thought never even crossed my mind. We both spin around and we run. We do the opposite of what you're supposed to do, and we take off. Whoever's faster gets to live. That's what we are both thinking. The slower one gets eaten, the fast one gets to live. And mind you, if I end up being the faster one, I don't have a pilot's license, and I'm stranded. My pilot just got eaten. So we take off. Everything's out the window. We run, and we run some more until we're out of breath. And then we stop, and we turn around. The bear's gone. So whatever they taught us with waving our hands and don't run, well, I guess in this scenario, it's a good thing we didn't listen, because running worked superb. We got out of that bear's domain, and we lived. I am sitting here telling you this story, maybe because I ran when I wasn't supposed to, but it worked out. God protected us, and we got away from that bear. So we're sitting there laughing our butts off because we just looked a massive wood devil in the eyes and got away from it. So at this point now, we know that the direction we're heading in has a bear roaming around. But also, the direction we're heading in is where we believe fully the town or some people to be. So we have to keep going in that direction. So we sit there and we're like, okay, let's just sit here, let things calm down for a bit, and then we'll start, going back into that direction again. So we sit there for what I remember, what I can recollect is maybe 10, 20, 30 minutes. And we sit there, and then we start walking again. And we start walking in the direction of that bear. And here, ladies and gentlemen, is where I'm going to end part 1. In part 2, I will try to release within 48 hours. So I'm going to try to drop part 2. But if you like this story, please like and subscribe. It really, truly helps. At least I believe it helps, because this is what I hear everyone else on YouTube saying. Again, this is my first real video. I've released a few Call of Duty clips and some other stuff like that, but this is my first real video. And I'm sorry if the first part's a little bland. I promise you, boys and squirrels, I promise you, Fishy crosses his heart. Part 2 is going to be thrilling. Part 2 is going to be more than what your little brains are spinning up right now. Part 2 is going to be fantastic. So stick with me, please. I love you all. And please, please, please give your boy a shot. Give your boy a shot to do this. I haven't mentioned this, but I'm a single dad, and I got a 2-year-old at home. And I'm also in college, like I said earlier, pursuing a history major. So jobs are a little bit difficult for your boy Fishy. It's hard for me to work, go to college, and raise a kid. It's difficult. So I'm hoping this YouTube thing can pay off. I really am. So please just give your boy a chance. And like I said, comment whatever you want. Any kind of constructive criticism is superb for me. Everything you do helps. God bless you all. Thank you. Part 2 will be on its way.